NFL podcast. Paul Rudd knows one of our names.
Welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL broadcast presented by the United States Marine Corps. My name is Dan Hansis. I come to you from a virtual room filled with some heroes, Mark Sessler, Greg Rosenthal. What is up, boys?
This is the one time of the week I really feel alive, so it's good to share it with you. I've just been like a husk, a corpse since we last spoke.
We kind of like pull you out of some sort of storage chamber on Friday mornings to do this together. That's an enjoyable factor.
And it should be noted, just to provide clarity, the name that Paul Rudd knows is the old Zeuser himself, Dan Hansis. Big fan of my work, and that's just for the audience. Don't want people to be out in the cold when it comes to the money drop.
No, and we're 8 seconds into the show and already have a third person reference, so we are on brand and firing with power today.
Welcome. Yes, this is the Week 13 preview. I can't believe we made it here. I legitimately can't believe that we've gotten this far, and it's a celebration to be had, and it feels like Week 12 just ended. Hey, Week 12 did just end. So we are in a very strange world of the NFL. something that we'll probably never experience again. So I guess we just ride with the madness, right, Greg?
No, I'm hoping to do this every year. I hoping pandemics just in different flavors kind of pop up each and every season now.
You did. This was something that you had asked for. It's funny what the pandemic did, because Mark had asked for something that would whisk him away from the office for a long stretch and allow him not to ever see people again, and he got it. And I would say he's thriving, even though he's pretending that it's not something that he likes now that it's actually happened. Whereas, Greg, you many years said you want football every day, and we're almost there now. Is this what you really wanted? Is it everything you could have wished?
Well, you've brought this up a few times. I did back off that stance about 2 years ago. I think it was the second child. That was where I decided, no, enough. We have enough days of football. I'm not into this.
And by the way, my stance was not that I wanted like the entire globe to be gripped by a pandemic. I said I wanted like a soft hospital stay that would, no real permanent damage, but a 3 or 4 month sojourn in a really nice bed with a window to look out that would generate sympathy. People saying that guy worked so hard. There's a lot of concern around him, and when he comes back, he'll be hailed as a hero. This is not how this is unfolding, Dan. So both narratives incorrect.
It would be kind of cool if we finally get back to the office and they just throw you a parade for your return to the office. That would be very confusing.
That would be appropriate.
For people, I feel like.
Well, I feel like that's been a long time coming, but that's a whole different issue.
All right, here we go. Let's get enough of the funny business, okay? Because we got a lot of games to get to. In fact, we have 15 games to get to. Just 2 teams on bye. My notes say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Carolina Panthers. Pretty late for a bye. What's the point? Let's move that up in the future. 345 Park Avenue, and we're now going to go through each of the Week 13 games draft style. To determine what games we cover come Sunday. And it just so happens that with the first overall pick in the 2020 Week 13 draft, Mark Sessler has the podium.
We've been doing this show for a long time, and I can confidently say that there's never been a period in any time that we've covered football where the number 1 pick in Week 13 of the NFL season included the Cleveland Browns. But I'm going there this time, and it's not because of the long-standing Browns fandom inside of me. I'm going Browns at Tennessee, 8-3 versus 8-3. And I think it's an 8-3 team that a lot of people believe in the Titans, and an 8-3 team in Cleveland that a lot of people are very suspicious of. They are, if you look at DVOA since 1985, they are the worst DVOA ranked team ever since 1985. They've done it in weird ways. They've done it with key players out of the lineup. They've done it in Mother Nature wreaking total havoc over a course of a month. They're a hard-running team. Can they hang with the Tennessee Titans? I think this is sort of your electric Kool-Aid acid test if you're a Cleveland Brown, because people said, look, you got waxed by Baltimore in Week 1. You got killed by Pittsburgh. You got clipped by Las Vegas in terrible weather. Can you possibly handle a Tennessee Titans team that broke the Indianapolis Colts by halftime last week? What I like about these teams, though, and Mike Vrabel said the same thing when he was studying Nick Chubb, that he had too much fun watching him and kind of forgot that he was actually studying to stop him this Sunday. So these are mirror teams on offense in a sense where it channels through the ground. I don't think you're going to get a game like this all year where you get Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt and a whole bunch of extra stuff that makes 2 very tough, rugged teams go up against each other. I like the fact that Myles Garrett is back for Cleveland. Denzel Ward is out, though. I don't know how you stop someone like A.J. Brown. I think the Titans have a few too many weapons. Cleveland's going to need turnovers. They're going to need some luck to make this a game. We will see. What do you guys think? Am I being too optimistic, too pessimistic, too weird?
I don't even know where you are right now.
Yeah, you didn't really say where you felt. You were just giving us the information. I feel like you're probably confident, though, Mark. I think that you like this idea that everyone's counting out the Browns as not a serious contender in the AFC. I'll give you another stat, Mark, ties into your DVOA. The Browns' negative 21-point differential is the worst by any 8-3 or better team in their first 11 games in NFL history. The only other team to do that was the 87 Chargers, and they damn near lost out. So there's a little bit of precedent there, but that was also the strike season. Take with it what you will. Who knows what's going to happen with the Browns? Because the weather games, Greg, that happened in the middle of the season, that hurt the offense a little bit. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I look at the Browns and I think okay, are you going to be a better passing team moving forward in terms of like getting explosive plays? Baker Mayfield is actually coming off, I think, his best game of the entire season. He had some big time throws. He had a miss or two, but can he keep up in a big time shootout with Ryan Tannehill? Like, I think it could happen. This Titans team hasn't been that great all year. And Mark, you say they're the worst 8-3 team ever. Okay, well, they still have to be an 8-3 team, and one of those worst 8-3 teams ever was the Carolina Panthers before they almost went and won a Super Bowl with Jake Delhomme. So it doesn't matter what you do in your first 11 games; it's what you do moving forward. They got to play better. They have the players to play better. They have a great offensive line. I think they could get it done against Tennessee. I think they have a chance. I was thinking about locking up the Titans, and then I looked at your sweet little face, Mark, and it just seems mean. I can't pick against Mark Sessler and lock up against the Browns. What do you think?
All right, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. All right. As we do every week, we use the draft style format to figure out who picks what games and follows games come Sunday, Monday, and yes, Tuesday. And it just so happens with the first overall pick in the 2020 Week 13 draft, it goes to Mark Sessler.
Well, I have to go here. I'm going to go Cleveland at Tennessee. When's the last time the Browns were 8-3 facing another 8-3 team? This is an interesting matchup. I watched what the Titans did to the Colts last week, and it leaves me very concerned about Cleveland's defense. The back half of their defense is missing Denzel Ward. It's missing safety Ronnie Harrison, and that feels like an inviting mixture for Derrick Henry to go crazy. The counter is you've got Nick Chubb. You've got Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb is playing as well as any running back right next along with Derrick Henry in the league. So this is a classic old school rough and tumble matchup between two teams that want to run the ball. I want to trust the Browns in this, but I'm a little concerned, guys. The Titans just last week looked so powerful. Am I being a little too pessimistic to think that Tennessee is simply going to walk away in this one potentially?
No, I think that's the conventional wisdom. I mean, I was thinking of locking up against your Browns this week because the Titans are coming off their best 5 quarters of the season. You know, the Titans haven't been that great either. I know the Browns are getting a lot of grief about being 8-3 and not a strong 8-3. And Titans have better wins for sure. But until the last 2 weeks, they've been a poor defense, and they've won a lot of close games, sometimes against mediocre teams, and they haven't been amazing either. I don't think you're too pessimistic, Mark, but I also don't want to lock up against your Browns, because I just look at you and, you've been through a lot. You've got such a nice, sweet face. I want to be rooting for these brownies on Sunday. So I'm not going to.
I'm nice and sweet.
Look at that guy. You want to root against that guy? I don't want to root against him. How about Baker Mayfield show up and play his best game of the year and keep them going in a shootout?
I'm with you, Greg. Mark, you look at Mark. He's a sweet man. He's a sensitive man. He's got the heart of a poet. So when I'm staring at the games and trying to figure out what to lock up, I also don't want to get on Mark's bad side, because as sweet and as a poet like as he is,
there's another side too.
Mark's wrong side also. So it's like I didn't want to go down that road. It was just far too volatile. So he intimidated me out of it. The intimidating poet is what I call Mark Sessler. But the research notes that NFL media puts together, which are always awesome. Great factoid here. The Browns' negative 21-point differential is the worst by any 8-3 or better team in their first 11 games in NFL history. Now, do I think that means that the Browns are going to go in the tank? No, because there's some weird stuff around this Browns season, including a trio of weather games that deflated their offense. But at the same time, at some point, you think Baker Mayfield's going to have to win one of these games. Is he up to the challenge? Mayfield is a guy that I still have questions about. At some point, he's going to be called upon, and it's going to be a non-Bengals team. Will he deliver?
I mean, you watch even just the Jaguars game, because it's every game for Baker Mayfield. He had some puzzling throws in the end zone. The lead you just seen, is he seeing the field? He also had a couple tight window throws. That's sort of Baker Mayfield every week. I mean, he hasn't thrown an interception in a month, but they haven't really asked him to do as much. I mean, this is a team that runs through the ground. I think it's a big factor that you have Myles Garrett back. I mean, he had missed the last 2 games. They worked around that. They need him to come in and make a game-changing play. In most of their victories, many of them have been triggered by a Myles Garrett strip sack, turnover of some nature, or a huge takedown in a money scenario. So Ryan Tannehill will have to deal with that, but this is the best game of the week in my book.
Well, also there's some major issues with protection for the Titans. Tannehill's getting hit a lot this year, and they have injury issues. You have obviously Taylor Lewan out for the year, Ty Zambrano, who was his replacement, he's hurt. Interior, they've been banged up. So if Myles Garrett, he's pretty much unstoppable when healthy, that's a major factor in this game. Another major factor, I think it's a little bit under the radar. We had the great Mike Keith, the voice of the Titans, on the Power Rankings show this week, and he pointed out that, and he's right, that Derrick Henry is not that far off from a 2,000-yard pace. He's on pace for almost 1,900 yards rushing this year. And Nick Chubb, I think, is a top 3 running back in the league. I think Derrick Henry, in terms of his ability, especially this time of the year, it's Derrick Henry's season. And I think he's just going to continue to roll over teams, even a team as good on the front as the Browns can be.
Yeah, I think this is a game where the 2018 Baker's got to show up. And I thought last week against the Jaguars, he made more impressive throws in that game than maybe any game all season. I know it was against the Jaguars, but they were difficult throws. And that's what you're going to need for them to kind of take the next step. Because in my mind, and I look at the Pro Football Focus rankings, for instance, and it mirrors a little bit how I see Baker. I thought he was a top 10 quarterback his rookie season. I thought the last 2 seasons that he has been about 20th to 25th. And they're 8-3 despite that. And so if he can make big throws against a pretty bad defense, they should be able to keep up in a shootout. I mean, this Titans defense hasn't shown me much all season.
I do think Kevin Stefanski is an X factor compared to last year when they were blown out by the Titans. A totally different situation. He's a pretty good game day coach, and I would expect a couple trick plays on both sides here. When I think about this game, it's A.J. Brown over and over. I just feel like this guy is like a man amongst small children sometimes, and Cleveland's secondary has played like small children at various junctures. So there is some slight concern, gentlemen.
A.J. Brown a little bit beat up as well heading into this game. Pick the game, Mark, before we move on. Look, I really want Cleveland to show up here, but I think it's going to be about 28-25 Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fair. Picking with his head, not his heart. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. All right, let's move on in the draft now. Greg, you're up next.
All right, with the second pick, I'm going to surprise you and take a little Patriots-Chargers in the late window. I don't think I've watched the Patriots live other than in prime time since week 1. It's time. The Patriots made me feel something.
Wait a second,
for the first time.
Greg.
Also,
You could have traded back, got this game, and picked up more assets on your chessboard.
It's unbelievable.
I don't really care about all that when it comes to the draft. You just take whatever you want. That's the beautiful thing. I want to watch this game. I want to watch Herbert versus Belichick. I think Belichick, with his plan against Kyler Murray, was about as good as they've been coaching all season. I want to see what he does against Herbert, who now 2 out of the last 3 weeks has gotten scrambled a little bit by the opposing game plan and by his own game plan, and that kind of points to the coaching mismatch in this game. Not only are they relying on the run a little too much and they're blowing clock management in Los Angeles, but I just don't think they're taking advantage of all the talent that they have, whereas Belichick, I thought last week it made me want this team, the Patriots that is, to get through this game, get a win, and at least get to Thursday night against the Rams where the Patriots will be a big underdog, but that they can get to a meaningful game in week 14. That will be more than I would have expected out of this season.
Well,
yeah,
Go ahead,
Dan.
Well, I thought that, Greg, on Sunday night's flagship show, because we're all fans of Anthony Lynn, but I think maybe you're a bigger fan because you could barely summon the courage to bring up his clock issues at the end of that game. And then
I've been talking about it for 3 years.
And then we all watched the game the next day, and it was stunning. It was stunning what Anthony Lynn did at the end of that game. And we have talked about it on the show the last few weeks about whose jobs are secure at head coach, whose are not. And I just think, like, when it comes down to it, when the Los Angeles Chargers brain trust has to decide who the head coach should be with this rookie that hit the ground running as a top 10 quarterback after seeing how this year has played out, I mean, it's just, to me, it makes it's tough because Lynn is a good guy, but there's a lot of good guys that aren't good head coaches, and I think he qualifies. I don't see how he can keep the faith of management short of a great run to close this season. I think he's in a lot of trouble, and I think management will remember this game, although you're right, he has been having these issues for years. Anthony Lynn's been there for years. He's gotten a long leash to figure this out.
I'm with you, Dan. I mean, like, here's the thing. Once you have this prized first-year quarterback in your house, I mean, you have to go find the best possible solution for him. I've liked the offense with him in there and how they've organized it, but the time management stuff, it sneaks up. It's a weekly thing. It's the last-second losses. It's sort of the Chargers aura of look at us and wait to see what we'll do in the fourth quarter. We're going to surprise you, not in a way that's going to delight you if you live in California. I also, flip side, think that Belichick loves the concept of, like, the challenge of going up against Kyler Murray last week, Justin Herbert this week. He loves going on with his against rookie quarterbacks here against Justin Herbert. And I think you're going to get a Patriots team the same way they did last week. They're going to want to run the ball a ton to keep Joey Bosa out of the mix. This is a big couple of weeks for Cam Newton and Cam Newton's future. I don't think he looked good at all last week until that final drive where he used his legs to save them against the Cardinals. A very fascinating matchup. Greg, I don't hate it at number 2. I do agree with Dan, though. It's a slight reach.
It's not a reach at all. Basically, you got to pick an afternoon game. That's the one I want to watch in the afternoon. We should point out Lynn's been there 3 years. One of them, he was almost coach of the year. So it's been an up and down ride, but you got to be able to fix your mistakes, and they haven't been able to do that. And one of their problems this year has been stopping the run. And Cam Newton has been struggling. Like, it's amazing the Patriots are winning this much without a passing game. And so he's also playing for his future, whether it's in New England or somewhere else. Like, he is playing to try to be a starting quarterback, but they are 3-1 in their last 4. If they could somehow win this game, they've won 4 out of 5 games. Belichick teams, especially defensively, tend to improve late in the season. Stephon Gilmore is playing well once again, and you never know. I will say their defense has looked quite a bit better the last 3 or 4 weeks, and they're back in the mix, Dan.
I do. I think, I would say I'd be surprised if they're not playing relevant football in Week 16, because I think they're going to hang around because the coaching is so good, and that typically, teams fall back to the pack, in December, and the idea that oh, everyone's going to be 10-6 that makes the playoffs. It doesn't always end up playing out that way. Newton's obviously got to be better, and Joey Bosa put on an absolute clinic last week. And that's another thing. I mean, you have Justin Herbert, who's having an all-time rookie season. You're wasting performances like what Joey Bosa gave you last week, where he just destroyed the opponent in every way imaginable. The Chargers have too much talent to have a record this bad, and also for me to think that a Patriots team with this lack of talent, this dearth of playmaking ability, is going to go to LA and win, which is what I think is going to happen. So some things need to be corrected.
Is he locking it up? Is he locking up the Chargers?
I can't lock up.
Oh, come on.
We've passed the point where Cam Newton could ever be locked up. He's not a lockable quarterback at this stage.
I thought you were going to lock up the Chargers. I thought you were going to just go
staying away
full
from this
Jets
game.
fan.
It's a weird game. I'm staying away. Let's move on. I'm up now. The old Zeuser. And yes, I am thrilled to have this at number 3 overall. Rams at Cardinals. Didn't think it would get here, and here we are. Good. This is a great quarterback game. They're all quarterback games on some level, but this one especially. You have, obviously, Sean McVay after a disappointing loss for Los Angeles last week, where they turned the ball over and Jared Goff was sloppy with the ball, and McVay made the pointed comment to say, my quarterback needs to be better with the football. He's got to protect the football. That was pointed criticism. And Goff has to hear that message. He's the big money quarterback. I'm not sure they do that deal again that they did a year ago in September with a massive extension, but they're locked in with Jared Goff now. This marriage is something that's going to continue, whether things go poorly or well for the balance of the season. But I want to see how Goff handles that criticism from his coach. On the other side, I don't know what to think about the Cardinals right now, because Kyler Murray, in a lot of ways, is that team. And if he's not going to be the dual threat guy, I don't think they're a dangerous team at all. In fact, I think they're a very flat team. And Mark, I'm not convinced he's even healthy. I know we're not hearing about the shoulder anymore, but that doesn't mean the shoulder's not an issue.
I would say that it's encouraging to watch what he did on the ground in the second half, especially the fourth quarter against the Patriots. -2 yards at halftime, and I was thinking the same thing as you. It must be the shoulder. He ran pretty well down the stretch. They're 1-8-1 when he runs for under 30 yards. To your point about the dual threat, you need Kyler Murray on the ground. I mean, we all see that every game, and they've dropped 3 of their last 4. This team is under significant pressure, but I think they're facing a team in the Rams that are under pressure too, because it feels like every 3 weeks or so, a defense rolls in with a good plan that completely unsettles, neutralizes Jared Goff, and causes mistakes to the ire of Sean McVay. They've got to find a way for that not to be the case. I know that we always, the Rams are the Rams, and they have a lot of talent. I trust them to get into the playoffs, but do I trust them to go on a Super Bowl run when you're watching a team like the Niners take them out twice? I mean, the Niners defense last week made the Rams offense look completely mystified, and especially Jared Goff, and that leads to turnovers, and that leads to losses. That's not a formula to go to the Super Bowl.
On paper, the Cardinals have a defense that's really overachieved and can do some of the things that give Jared Goff problems. Vance Joseph's, I think, has done a terrific job. If you look how untalented they are, especially after losing Chandler Jones up front, they've been really injured. They have a lot of new pieces, a lot of leftover parts from other teams. He has them playing cohesively, and he has them blitzing like crazy. But most of their success has been against bad teams and bad coaches. And I think this is a good matchup for them. They beat the Cardinals 2 times last year, fairly convincing one of those times. And I don't think Murray's shoulder's the problem. I think it's just defenses are making him hand the ball off. I mean, he had 3 throws last week that there's no chance it's bothering his arm strength. That he made throws that almost no one in the NFL could make last week. His legs are obviously fine. Maybe he's being hesitant to run, but he keeps saying that defenses are forcing me to hand off on the option plays where he either keeps it or hands it off. They're just playing Kyler Murray because they're not that worried about the rest of the Cardinals running backs, and neither would I be. I mean, I would just want to stop Kyler Murray on the ground because the passing game hasn't been that consistent.
I would say Aaron Donald is not going to let him hand off. He's going to want him to hand off the ball. And Aaron Donald's 3 times the size of Kyler Murray. He's just going to scoop him up.
Well, when you factor in the size of Kyler Murray's helmet, they're about equal in size.
That's fair.
You got to talk about the equipment as well. Yeah, that would be my guess, because I didn't see Kyler throwing ducks out there. It wasn't Chad Pennington after his 14th shoulder surgery or anything. But you wonder if maybe there is a little bit more hesitancy for the Cliff Kingsbury to make those calls or for Kyler to make those decisions. We'll see. It's all going to play out down the stretch here, but they need him. The Seahawks, the Rams are interesting to me because they're almost like the reverse of what's going on in Seattle, the other team that they're battling for division supremacy, where Seattle just needs their defense to get to average. And then it's like you let Russ cook, you let the offense take it home. Weirdly, the Sean McVay team just needs the offense to get to average or a little bit better and then have the defense be what the defense is. And they weren't last week, and you see what happens when they're not. I like the Rams, though, this week, boys. And, for entertainment value, I picked the Cowboys last week in the Locks Challenge. What a bad move that was, and I got burned on it. So I'm back to being deadly serious in this Locks competition. And for that reason alone, for the fact that the Cardinals seem flat, the fact that Kyler Murray doesn't have the juice right now, I'm locking up the Rams to take care of business, knock the Cardinals out of the division race and maybe even the playoffs, and away we go.
I like to build a bridge between us, Dan, when I can.
You lock them up too, Greggy.
Oh, yeah. And by the way,
why don't I go?
What do you mean I picked the Cowboys for entertainment value? The Rams are like the exact same amount of being a favorite as the Cowboys were last week. Not much. It's like close to a coin flip, but you give
teams.
I don't know.
Look at the records for starters.
Right, but this Cardinals team has won one game in 5 weeks. 1 game in 5 weeks, this Cardinals team. I love Jalen Ramsey to shut down DeAndre Hopkins. They're not the same team when that happens, like Gilmore shut him down last week.
Just remember,
you're the lock boys. Enjoy it.
Just remember, viewers and listeners, I locked up the Cowboys for you, for entertainment. But now, it's serious.
They were favored at home. Whoa, let's not act like that was an act of courage.
So we'll be right back. Welcome back. All right. Enough funny business. Snakes to the zoo, sir. Oh, I'm feeling good about this pick. Saints at Falcons, and I can't believe it. I thought Greg would take this with the second overall pick, and if he didn't take that, he'd take the Rams Cardinals. I didn't think I'd ever get the NFC South showdown between the Saints and Falcons, your favorite rivalry in football, and yet here we are, Mr. Rosenthal, and here's a crazy stat that I think goes under the radar a little bit, and I think it's time to credit Sean Payton a little bit more. The Saints have won at least 6 straight games in each of the last 4 seasons. Like, that's incredible. That is a great run of just every year in and year out being a big-time team, and I believe, what are they on, an 8-game winning streak right now? And now they get the Falcons, who obviously are frisky as heck right now. We saw what they did. They embarrassed the Raiders last week, and they got beat by the Saints a few weeks back, and now they get a rematch. And to me, two things to look for here. Number one, on the Falcons side, Julio Jones. He's practicing at the time of this taping. He's got the hamstring issue. When you look at the numbers, it's obvious that Matt Ryan, without Julio Jones, this offense is mediocre at best. With Julio Jones, it is a very good offense. So if Julio plays, that's a big challenge for the Saints. If he doesn't, this feels lopsided. Then again, the other point here, Mark, is Taysom Hill, start 3. Obviously, the game plan went totally out the window on some level because they played the Broncos without a quarterback last week. But at the same time, Taysom Hill didn't look like a quarterback, even though that was his position. We get to see how he looks against an opponent that's playing well, the Youngry Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, Taysom Hill might be playing himself out of a future starting job. I think it's, the Saints, and Sean Payton is excellent with backup quarterbacks over the past 2 years, undefeated with them. So there's that. It's the Saints defense, though. They have allowed 1 touchdown in the past 4 games. I mean, their pressure rate has doubled over the past 4 games. But this Falcons defense, with Raheem Morris at head coach, have gone from 18th, and Greg loves the DVOAs, from 18th to 3rd in defensive DVOA. So I think this is an interesting matchup. I have extreme confidence in what I'm about to do, though, right here. And I've gone and checked with the little men in the desert, and this checks out heartily with no concern. I'm going to be locking up the New Orleans Saints, and you can say whatever you want about it, boys.
I think that's great. I think they're kind of at the level of the Chiefs right now, that any time you get a chance to lock them, you should. But they're not favored by much because they don't have a quarterback. I mean, this game is expected to be as closer than Rams-Cardinals. I don't think that's giving the Saints enough credit because of the matchup here. I didn't draft this game because it was such a dud last time around. The Saints' defensive line was so dominant against the Falcons' offensive line. Cameron Jordan has the all-time record of sacks against a quarterback because he just is in Matty Ice's face every single snap. But it's not just Cameron Jordan. It's Trey Hendrickson. It's Rankins when he's healthy. It's everybody. It's Marcus Davenport if he plays this week. It's David Onyemata getting pressure. They've had no chance. They sacked him like crazy when they played on Thanksgiving a year ago. Weird things happen when teams play twice in 3 weeks, and weird things happen when these two teams play. So it wouldn't totally shock me if a frisky Falcons team makes this close. But the Saints are the best team in the league right now. I really believe that. They don't have a passing game, so I don't trust them like the Chiefs without their quarterback back. But other than that, they're the best team in the league.
They are, according to Next Gen Stats, they're running the ball nearly 70% of the time right now. And Greg, I think there was some validity to it. You called out my comments about Alvin Kamara essentially being erased from this offense, and the fact that he's also my number 9 overall pick in my league of record in fantasy.
Nice
yeah,
pick,
of course.
Nice pick.
I'm a real person, so that's going to shade, I guess, some of my analysis. Throw me in jail. But at the same time, isn't it a little bit weird? A little bit weird that Alvin Kamara is your best player on the team, and now you have an offense where you're not really using him anymore. He's not being targeted in the passing game.
It's 2 weeks, and they won games by so much that I don't think it's meaningful yet.
I just say he was
not
targeted.
Meaningful yet.
He's been targeted on 13% of his routes with Hill. It was at 37 with Breeze. Maybe it's small sample size. So let's see. Let's see what happens here. But I think Alvin Kamara needs to be a big part of this. Now, there's another part of this, too. Alvin Kamara has a foot issue. Maybe they're protecting him right now. So there's too much to really draw conclusions on. But at the same time, like, this offense needs to, I think, feature Alvin Kamara, because this Taysom Hill thing, it just seems, I don't know, it seems fugazi to me ultimately.
I would say this.
Just
I think
being
Sean
totally
Payton
real.
cares. Sean Payton cares very much about fantasy football and your fantasy team, Dan. So I think you're going to see an uptick in Alvin Kamara usage. No, it's everyone. People are going nuts.
I'm speaking
I gotta
for the people
say, though,
again. Millions and millions of Alvin Kamara fantasy owners are like, what is happening right now? This is absurd.
And you're representing them well. It's too bad Mark's not watching this game, because feels like a lot of pressure. Living on Taysom Hill, playing this Falcons team. It's just a recipe. You got Young Wei Koo leading his fantasy teams to glory every week. You got Keanu Neal. You got Alua Khan on the Falcons defense. You never know. It's Mark putting himself on the line, putting his heart on the line with Taysom Hill in a big spot as a lock.
I largely feel nothing inside at this point in the season. So, let's, I'll be okay. I think there's some slight projecting going on there.
We'll be right back after this. Time now for Road to Victory presented by the United States Marine Corps. Big game here. I like this game. Kind of a sneaky good game. Bills, Niners. Mark, a Bills team, 8-3, feeling good, beat a Chargers team in not the most impressive way, but listen, they're really set up well to win their division. And then on the other side, the Niners, who, man, we like the Niners around these parts, especially this team.
Yeah, I don't think it's sneaky good. We've had enough of the Bears and the Eagles at nighttime. Let's get some real games here. This is intriguing. The football gods, they riddled the Niners with injuries. Corona did its thing. And instead, now they're getting healthy. Watching Debo Samuel back in the lineup last week and what that did for their offense against the Rams, he was all over the place. Now you got Brandon Ayuk back. Raheem Mostert is back. I'm looking at this and saying this is the team that could supersede the Arizona Cardinals and jump into the playoffs. It's not crazy. Nick Mullins would be the X factor there because he seems to do two things a game that totally shatter your chances of winning. But they found a way, especially with this defense, is so well coached. It's so well coached, and they're so active. And what they did against Jared Goff gave me so much faith. I think this is an incredible matchup, Greg.
They are so well coached. It's really amazing because they have gotten healthier on the back end. You have Richard Sherman. Their linebackers are healthy now, and that's great. But their defensive line are mostly guys that they had no interest in playing to start the year. Kerry Hyder has numbers that you would have expected out of Nick Bosa. Kerry Hyder has been on 4 or 5 teams. He's a good player, always underrated, but they are so cohesive, and that could be a problem for Josh Allen, who I keep banging the drum, makes a few decisions every game that makes you worried. They're not going to have John Brown in this game. They ran the ball better, and I think that's the way to beat the 49ers rather, ultimately. And so that's big for Buffalo. If they can have some balance, I don't think they necessarily want to be throwing the ball 40 times a game with Josh Allen moving late into December. As explosive as they are, it's almost better to be balanced, to have a changeup. And ultimately, I do think they have more talent than the San Francisco team.
Yeah, I'm with you on that point you've been making about Allen, because it seems like clockwork, there's going to be one throw that's put up for grabs and one time he puts it on the carpet. in the pocket. And it's like, can you take advantage of those opportunities? The Chargers last week didn't. I think they had 3 turnovers in the span of about 7 plays in the fourth quarter against the Chargers, but the Chargers is such a mess that they don't know how to accept gifts from other people. So will the Niners, I feel like they're a better team, a better coach team, and I think they would take advantage of that. The other thing with San Francisco, yes, Nick Mullins is a grab bag. Sometimes he'll look like the worst quarterback in the league. Other times he'll look totally competent. Brandon Ayuk's going to be back here, and he's obviously a big-time playmaker. And then Debo Samuel is one of my favorite players to watch in the league because he's just one of those dudes where when the ball's in his hand, I almost said, by the way, one of those cats. I don't like when people say cats. I don't know. I feel like it's a way, it's an affectation to seem cool. I don't know. One of those cats. You put the ball in his hand, and he just looks different. I mean, he's just a special cat. No, I'm calling him a dude. And I feel better
slightly
about that.
Antiquated cats.
Anyway, so when he has the ball in his hands, he looks different. He's built different. He's thick, but he's fast, and he runs through tackles. And because Kyle Shanahan's a genius at this thing, he finds the way to get the ball in his hands. So as long as Nick Mullins doesn't implode, I really like the Niners in this game. I think the Niners are going to be around in December. Mark, I think we prematurely forked them on Thursday night a few weeks back.
Because I wasn't a part of that, Niners fans. They're coming at me sometimes. I was like, look, I wasn't on that podcast. I wouldn't have forked Kyle Shanahan.
Actually,
well,
Mark,
Greg, you deserve that. But Dan, that was premature on our part.
Yes.
That means we have to give money to a certain charity of our picking. Charity is a wide term.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. So I think the Niners win this game. How about that? Outright. Wow. Anybody with me?
I took the Bills by a point in this game. But I do think that this is the first game with Ayuk, Mostert, and Debo since week 6. And it's a big test for the Bills defense, who I thought played their best game of the season. That's why I'm taking the Bills. I think their defense might be rounding into form, and that gives them a few more routes to win.
I think this is the beginning of San Francisco's playoff run. I would say, like, yummy, yummy, put this game in my tummy. I'm all about the Niners at night. I'm tired of bad primetime matchups.
How old are you?
I love the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to win this game going away.
Lock it up then. You can always change your lock.
Yeah, you can move off the team on the 8-game winning streak for, this game if you want.
You know what? The narratives, whenever I pick a lock, the narratives are absurd. And the deep studies show that my locks are absolutely legit. I'm going to stick with my lock.
All right, there you go. That was Road to Victory presented by the United States Marine Corps. We'll be right back. Welcome back. All right, next game. Let's knock out the other off-schedule game. This is not the Monday Night Football branded game, so do not dare connect that to the celebrated ESPN ABC Disney property. Okay, this is Washington Football Team at Pittsburgh Steelers, 4-7, 11-0. But guess what? These are two teams battling for a division title. The Steelers obviously in great position right now, Mark Sessler, and have a chance to make history. But we're coming off a game against the Ravens on Wednesday that was by no means a piece of art by the Steelers, especially on offense. Do you give him any pass for the way things played out on Wednesday?
I kind of do. I mean, so much happened in the lead up to that. I'm not good at a lot of things on Wednesday, so I understand how that goes.
Hump day.
It's. I think this though. A couple weeks ago, you would have said Pittsburgh walks away with this thing. I'm watching Washington kind of grow into a bit of a dangerous operation here. And Greg, we covered that Thanksgiving bout with Dallas where the Cowboys were embarrassed, I thought, by young Scott Turner coming up with a lot of trick plays. Our guy, I mean, Logan
Scotty
Thomas. Listen, he's a property on the rise. I love watching Logan Thomas of late. He's got wildcat carries. He had a 28-yard pass to Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's doing all sorts of stuff, and they're coming up with creative ways to get people open. I think Antonio Gibson is becoming one of the more intriguing backs in the league. So this is a challenge for Pittsburgh, in another weird setup to a game, because these teams like to do the same thing every week, and it's like now you practice from Wednesday to Monday. That's odd. So I think the Steelers, they can clinch a playoff berth with a win here, so they're going to be focused. I would expect a better showing.
I think this is going to be a big potential problem for Pittsburgh. I look at the matchup and the way their offensive line is struggling. They had one of the worst days of the season on Wednesday. They not only lost Bud Dupree, their great pass rusher for the season, they lost their center, Pouncey, to the COVID list. He's probably not going to be back for this game. They're coming off a short rest. The Washington Football Team, who's the most fun Washington team I've watched since Clinton Portis and Jim Zorn and Jason Campbell were running around, gets better every week, and they have some rest. I think you're feeling the weight of the season if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not just the weight of coronavirus that we're all feeling, and their team has also been hurt by Stephon Tuitt is out, but the injuries and the undefeated record. They were so miserable after that win, after beating the Ravens, saying it wasn't good enough and it was JV and they're not happy. It's like you see this every time there's an undefeated team in December. It's just like it's heavy, it's miserable, and meanwhile you got a Washington team with Alex Smith. Give it to me. Give me the upset. I'm picking Washington to win this game on my game picks. Check that out, NFL.com/game picks. I need some joy in 2020. How about Alex Smith doing a post-game interview at like 5 p.m. Pacific on a Monday afternoon after he takes out the last undefeated team in the league? That's what I want. Give it to me.
Well, there's honestly no such thing as a joyful Zoom call. It doesn't matter who's involved or what the circumstances
the post game. It'll be the post game on whatever network this is even on.
Your bar is low, very low.
All you need to know is it is not ESPN and it is not their property. All right, no. Here's the counter to that. The Pouncey thing's a big deal. And yes, Ben was under pressure on Wednesday. I think he threw the ball 51 times, which is crazy. And he wasn't sacked once. And it's all because this new Ben Roethlisberger, where according to Next Gen Stats, fastest in the league time to throw in terms of seconds, highest in the league quick pass percentage, third highest passes under 10 yards. So he gets the ball out. So it's going to negate the real, to me, strength of the Washington defense more than anything else, which is their front seven and the ability of that front seven to wreak havoc on the quarterback in the pass rush. So while I really do admire the onions, Greg, of you picking the Washington Football Team, I don't want to sell the undefeated Steelers short here. I think it could just as easily go the other way, and this game gets away from Washington and the Steelers romp. I could see that as an outcome as well. Is that something that you can't see as an outcome?
It's possible, but I like fun. I mean, I guess you don't. You just like boring old undefeated teams marching forward. I like Alex
Smith. Says the Patriots
I guess
fan.
You don't. I like Antonio.
Right. I mean, Greg, lock it up if you're feeling so. Oh, well, so you put something on NFL. I put a lot of things on NFL.com that no one will ever have any concept that happens. So let's see how that works. We'll go to break.
All right, let's move on. Greg, continuing the draft, you're up next.
All right, I got the Colts and the Texans. This is how I expected the draft to go. I really plotted it out. I said they're going to leave this one for me. I like that in the morning. I get to watch a little Deshaun Watson. I get to watch my Colts against a compromised Texans team. Let's be real. Not just without Will Fuller, but Bradley Roby was playing good at cornerback. So those two suspensions, I think, really hurts them. And I think their weakness on defense, stopping the run in Houston, really helps out Indianapolis. They are a totally different team, the Colts, when they can run the ball. Jonathan Taylor's off the COVID-19 list. It just sets up everything for Phillip Rivers, who missed practice this week. A teammate said he's really struggling with this foot/toe injury. That's a problem moving forward. I don't think it's going to be a big enough problem against a beleaguered Texans team right now. Even though they're winning games, I'm not giving them too much credit.
One thought, is it possible that Phil Rivers has reached a stage in terms of lack of mobility and slowness that any injuries to his lower body won't make a difference because he's already at the lowest level of speed / status?
I mean, classic Stone Age pony right there. That's the dictionary definition of when we use that term.
I'm not even joking, really. It's like, how much slower is he going to get?
Well, because you got to be able to pivot and plant when you throw the ball. If he's missing practice, that's a problem. He's not a guy who wants to be missing practice.
It is. I mean, it helps. I mean, getting DeForest Buckner back, getting Denico Autry back off the COVID list. Look, that is a huge reason that they were destroyed last week by Derrick Henry. It's not the only reason, but it's a factor because this defensive line has been stout. It's been the heart of their team. And you get healthy, you're good. I think the Colts basically are under some pressure here. You can't let the Texans clip you here. I know that they're down, but they're still frisky. And the Colts, to me, sometimes they seem to just go a little stagnant. I don't really trust them on offense at all. I do trust their defense if they're healthy. And you got to take care of business and stay in this AFC wildcard picture here and not fade away.
I almost give the Colts a pass for last week. I think DeForest Buckner is the Jenga piece of the entire team, let alone the defense, and the stats back it up. I mean, when he's not on the field, and he's usually been on the field this season, they average 2 yards more per carry on the ground, their opponent does. And that comes despite the fact that when Buckner's out of the game, and this has all come from Next Gen stats, Indy stacks the box at roughly double the rate to try to. So they're trying to make up for the fact that Buckner's gone, but he's such an important player that it doesn't matter with the run, and then that leaves them exposed in the passing game when they're stacking the box. So Buckner being out of there was a killer for them. So him being back and off the COVID list, I think they'll sense the urgency here. Our friend Patrick Claybon, sometimes him and I butt heads about things like momentum and trap games and things like that. I believe in urgency as well, and teams knowing they need to win a game, although Patrick might counter, well, they always want to win the game.
He's in your head. He's not even on the show, and he's in your head.
They really, really, really need to win this game, and they will. And I would lock it up if I didn't feel so good about my other lock.
I like that. And one positive with the Phillip Rivers injury is the Jacoby Brissett short yardage package, which is one of my favorite, most ridiculous, delightful parts of this entire season, where you replace the 32nd slowest quarterback in the league with like the 29th. And it's like working. I love Jacoby Brissett, like I've always rooted for, but it's really funny that you're bringing in like a guy who's got about the mobility of Jared Goff to run the short yardage plays. It's fun.
Dan, Greg is a weird guy.
He is a weird guy. He's a strange guy. And Greg, don't be so cynical. Yes, Patrick Claybon's in my head, but in a good way, in the greatest way.
Sure.
Everyone wants Patrick Claybon in their head. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. Here are the lock of this week standings through week 12. 7-5. Zeuser needs to go on a miracle run. Greg cruising at 10-2. Mark right behind at 9-3. Wes 8-4. Ricky Hollywood 3-9. And I have to say it. As a journal, I have to also tell you that in our fantasy league, NFL Media Fantasy League, Ricky also 3-9 in that league. I don't know what's happening, but the good news is she has a winning personality. Love you, Ricky. All right, boys. Let's get to the rest of the games with our speed round, and let's hit it. Go! New York Giants at Seattle Seahawks. Mark Sessom.
I mean, Darius Slay could do nothing against DK Metcalf. What are the Giants going to do? I do like this Giants defense, though. They have grown this season. They're a little frisky.
Philadelphia Eagles at Green Bay Packers. Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will be a bigger blowout than Giants Seahawks, to your point, Mark. There really is no reason to feel anything good about the Carson Wentz Eagles offense right now. I mean, you just have to show up. They are the ultimate slump busters.
I'm totally with you. I think it's ultimate in the tank zone for the Eagles now, and all bets are off in the offseason. Up next, Denver Broncos at Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos might even have a quarterback on the field. That's good news, Mark.
I mean, you guys want to talk about blowouts. This feels like the handmade blowout for everyone to watch. But the Chiefs just feel unstoppable. They're averaging about 400 yards a game at Patrick Mahomes right now. He's unbelievable. Who's going to stop him? The Broncos? No.
I still think the fact that it's 2020 and everything is insane and terrible covers up the fact that Tyreek Hill had 200 yards in the first quarter of a football game that counted. Las Vegas Raiders at New York Jets. I'll take this one. Everyone expects Vegas to totally go in the tank after that terrible loss at Atlanta. I'm not there yet, and I think a big reason why is they have the Jets to break their fall here and regroup. Yes, you'll remember last year the Raiders totally went in the bag against the Jets in the Meadowlands last year, but this is a different Jets team with no hope. The Raiders romp, and people stop talking about their collapse. Up next, Jacksonville Jaguars at Vikings. Sessler.
I mean, we're in Mike Glennon's world right now. It's 2020. Mike Glennon is starting in December. I don't know what else to say about our Earth.
He played well. He was the best quarterback the Jaguars have had all season.
I'm excited, Greg. I'm very excited.
I see that. Cincinnati Bengals at Miami Dolphins. Tua Fitzmagic may not matter, Greg.
No, I think it'll be Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I think this Dolphins defense will cook up Brandon Allen much like the Giants did a week ago. It's rough watching the Bengals right now.
Speaking of rough, how about, Mark, your Detroit Lions at Chicago Bears tilt right now?
Well, there are humans that will have to watch this game, and I'm hoping not to be one of them in our draft as it wages on.
Yeah, tough game. Of course, Matt Patricia no longer in the building. Maybe that sparks the Lions offense. We're hearing they might be more up-tempo. Tune in. Finally, the Dallas Cowboys and the Baltimore Ravens, another weirdly scheduled game, Greg.
I hope Lamar Jackson is back for this game. This is a massive game for Baltimore. They need to get to that Monday night Browns-Ravens game still alive, and to do that, they got to beat these Cowboys.
All right, there you go. Every game we just previewed will be recapped on the Around the NFL podcast, our flagship program on Sunday nights. Make sure you check that out. Thank you to everybody for watching and listening. Until next week, stay healthy, stay sane. That's not a bad sign-off.